America took a left turn for the worse. As President of the United States, on that day, our nation got weaker. Families became less safe. Freedom became less secure. Quite frankly, the last 2 years have been a disaster. But this past November, the American people said that they had had enough. On Election Day, we did one thing to get this country right. We fired Nancy Pelosi. And our new conservative House of Representatives is already hard at work. We to restrict any president's ability to sell our oil to China. We restricted his ability to sell it for political purposes. We advocated keeping 9 justices on the Supreme Court and stop court packing. We passed the Born Alive Act to protect life. And we fired 87,000 IRS agents. You know, we've had a pretty good couple weeks, but just wait until the Oversight and Judiciary Committee hearings start this week. I'm excited about that. You know, unfortunately, though, a lot of this is fruitless if we don't have somebody in the White House that believes what we believe. We need a strong leader who will work with us to restore America back to the great nation that it is. Just 2 years ago, I look at the room today, this packed room, this is incredible, and I see local leaders, I see grassroots leaders in our state and local Republican parties, I see members of the General Assembly, I see a senator, I see 3 congressmen. This is an impressive group of people. Never before in the history of the South Carolina Republican primary has a presidential candidate received this much support this early in the game. And we appreciate it because this is the testament to President Trump's legacy on our country. And we're here today to send a clear message that in 2024, we're going to tell President Biden that he is fired as President of the United States. We need a friend of South Carolina, someone who overwhelmingly had the support of our state in 2016, again in 2024 or in 2020, and will be with him in 2024. That's right, South Carolina wants Donald J. Trump back in the White House. When President Trump was in office, our economy was booming, the stock market was up, our taxes were low, our nation was safe, and we were feared by our enemies. There was no Biden inflation, gas prices and groceries were affordable, and eggs didn't need to be smuggled across our southern border. Now drugs, criminals, and millions of people are coming to this country illegally. Fentanyl is the leading cause of death for children under 14 years of age. Americans have paid $10,000 more because of inflation, because of this administration, and our military is training soldiers with pronouns instead of weapons. All the while, a confused old man is asleep at the wheel in his Corvette driving this country off a cliff. Ladies and gentlemen, we need a leader who will put America first. Who will fight against the swamp, the fake news, and the liberal left. We need Donald Trump. Mr. President, I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to support you and your campaign because, make no mistake, South Carolina is Trump country. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm South Carolina welcome to the 45th and soon-to-be 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Wow, thank you very much. So many friends. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. What a group. What a group. A lot of people outside, they want to be inside. Should we let them come in? I don't think so, right? Thank you all very much. And Russell, thank you. What a job you've done so quickly. It's been fantastic. Thank you. We love you too, and I'm proud to accept your endorsement, and I'm thrilled to be back in the great state of South Carolina. We won it twice. We won it twice by record numbers, and it's just a real honor. It's an incredible place. As the famous saying goes, South Carolina picks presidents. You've heard that a little bit before, right? In 2016, this state did exactly that, giving us 44 out of 46 counties. And I can't wait because the answer is we're going to get 46 this time. I think we're going to get all 46. I have a feeling. We're here today to announce our campaign's incredible South Carolina leadership team headed by Master. What a man. What a man. Thank you very much. And Peggy, thank you. We've been friends for almost from the minute we met. He wanted to endorse me, and I wanted to take his endorsement. I didn't have the endorsement from the person that for a period of time was a little bit above him, and that worked out very well for me, didn't it, huh? But Governor, you've done an incredible job, and congratulations on your recent very big record victory. Thank you very much, and Peggy. And a friend of mine for a long time. We don't always agree, but that's okay too. But he's a great guy, a great politician, actually, and a terrific person who loves your state, Senator Lindsey Graham. Thank you, Lindsey. Thank you. And many others we're going to introduce you in a little while. I just want to say to so many patriots with us this afternoon, including South Carolina First Lady Peggy McMaster. Thank you, Peggy. What you had to put up with during these campaigns. What you had to put up with, and you did. You're a professional and a great, great person. Thank you very much, Peggy. We appreciate it. South Carolina Senate President Thomas Alexander. Thank you very much. Thanks, Thomas. Appreciate it. House Speaker Murrell Smith. Thank you, Murrell. This campaign will be about the future. This campaign will be about issues. Joe Biden has put America on the fast track to ruin and destruction, and we will ensure that he does not receive 4 more years. We had a tremendous period of time. We had a tremendous thing happening just 2.5 years ago. I used to say 4 years ago, then 3 years ago, then 2 years, and now it's all of a sudden it's catching. So 2.5 years, if you just take a look at what we did where this country was greatest economy ever, largest tax cuts in the history of our country, largest regulation cuts in the history of our country, Space Force, right to try. We did so many things. Strongest border, by the way. How important is that? Strongest border in history. We built hundreds and hundreds of miles of wall. We got Mexico to give us 28,000 soldiers free of charge, no cost. And we had the greatest border in history and among the lowest years ever recorded for drugs. And now the drugs are literally 10 times more than they were just 2 years ago. What's happening to our country? The 2024 election is our one shot to save our country, and we need a leader who is ready to do that on day one. We need a fighter who can stand up to the left, who can stand up to the swamp, stand up to the media, stand up to the deep state. Am I allowed to say stand up to the rhinos, too? I think we can say that. I think we can say that. Stand up to the globalists and China and stand up for America, and that's what we do. We stand up for America, and that's why we had polls today come out, the best polls I think I've ever had, actually. And people are seeing, and they're liking us, but they're also not liking what's taking place in our country. To change the whole system, you need a president who can take on the whole system, and a president that can win. And we did great. Last time, we got 12 million more votes than we did the time before. Somebody interviewed me recently. What was the difference between 2020 and 2016? I said, the difference is we did much better in 2020. We did. Got many millions of more votes. But we got to be careful on election day, or as they call it now, election period, because these election days have gone into a long time. Another crazy thing that's happened. There's only one president who has ever challenged the entire establishment in Washington. And with your vote next year, we will do it again, and I will do it again. This will not be my campaign. This is going to be our campaign. I just left New Hampshire, and the relationship we have with that group of incredible patriots is unbelievable. Thousands and thousands of people coming from just a plane to the site, waving American flags, so proud of our country and so discouraged by what's happened. Together we will complete the unfinished business of making America great again. You know, when they hit MAGA, oh, MAGA, 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 that means make America great again. We're trying to explain that to a couple of Democrats. They don't quite get it. Just as we did 2 years ago, we're going to stop cold, the invasion on our border. That's an invasion, our southern border. We went from the best to, I think, the worst in the world, Henry. I think it's the worst ever, because no third world country would allow that to happen. They'd be there with sticks and stones if they had to be. But nothing like that's ever. This is an invasion that nobody's ever seen anything like it. And I think the real number could be 15 million people, not 4 or 5 million people. They have no idea what the number is. And they're coming from prisons, and they're coming from mental institutions, and they're coming from a lot of bad places that it's going to cause us a lot of problems. And we have to get that straightened out. We have to get it straightened out fast. And we have to remove a lot of people very, very fast, because we can't have what they're sending. They're sending people that are killers, murderers. They're sending rapists, and they're sending, frankly, terrorists, or terrorists are coming on their own, and we can't allow this to happen. So the illegal border crossers are going to be sent straight back home, those bad ones especially, and they're going to go fast. You know, when we were doing this 2.5 years ago, we sent thousands of, you could call it MS-13, you could call it some of the gangs, the gang from hell. These are not nice people. And we sent them back home by the thousands, and they didn't want to take them. They said, no, we're not, and the Obama administration couldn't get them back. They said, sir, we can't get them back. They won't accept them. I said, how much money do we pay them? So we pay them $750 million a year. Tell them we're not paying them anything anymore. I got a call the next morning from the 3 presidents of those 3 particular countries. Sir, there must be a misunderstanding. We'd love to have them back. We'd love to have them back. You were there. You were. They would love to have them back. We'll take all the MS-13 you have, but please keep paying. So we sent them back, but we still didn't give them the money. But now they made up for it, because they give far more than what we were doing, Henry. We're going to end the free reign of violent criminals in Democrat-run cities and keep dangerous repeat offenders locked up in jail where they belong. We're going to stop the left-wing radical racists and perverts who are trying to indoctrinate our youth. And we're going to get their Marxist hands off of our children. We're going to defeat the cult of gender ideology and reaffirm that God created 2 genders called men and women. We're not going to allow men to play in women's sports. And by so doing, you know what happens. We're going to save the dignity of women, and we're going to save women's sports itself. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We're going to bust up the censorship regime and bring back free speech again. We're going to find the deep state actors who have burrowed into government, fire them, and escort them from federal buildings, and it'll go very quickly. We're going to stop the appalling weaponization of our justice system. There's never been a justice system like this. It's all investigation, investigation. I've been going through it for 7 years. Oh, 7 years. We want his taxes. They get the taxes. That's the end of that. Nothing. They were very good. They said, he's very wealthy, but he didn't pay a lot of tax. But you know what we did? We created tremendous jobs, because that incentivized us to pay and create tremendous amounts of jobs. And look, we have a country, it's all about incentive. You have to incentivize people, and they're taking the incentives away. We have to be very careful, but we have a weaponized justice system like this country has never seen before. The FBI went to Twitter, and they said, the laptop is Russian misinformation. Think of it, Russian misinformation. And they said, just don't do anything, don't say anything. This is just before the election. Then the election comes and goes, and they said, well, I guess we got that one wrong, right? They all got it wrong. It's a disgrace. Just that alone was such massive cheating. The pollsters say it made a difference of 17 points. We didn't need 17 points. We didn't need almost anything. We actually needed nothing. And we're going to restore election integrity. We have to. People have to believe in our elections. They have to believe in elections, and they have to believe in borders. We need borders, and we need fair elections and free elections. And if you don't have those 2 things, you don't have a country. Most importantly, we're going to reverse every single crisis, calamity, and disaster that Joe Biden has created and bring safety, prosperity, and prestige back to America. And I will say, we're going to put America first, as I did just 2.5 years ago. America was first. And there's never been a period of time like it. Every day for the United States, though, is April Fool's Day. This just occurred to me yesterday. Because I see what's happening, I say, what's going on? What's happening? What's wrong? It's like April Fools, right? We have open borders when they should be closed, April Fool's Day, right? Who would want open borders with everybody just pouring in? We have prisoners and people from mental institutions and terrorists being dumped into our country when they should not be accepted, April Fools, right? We have no voter ID when everyone wants it. Even the Democrats, they voted 88% want it. The ones that don't want it are the leaders because they want to cheat in elections. It's very simple. There's only one reason that you could not want voter ID. You know, when they had their Democrat National Convention, I saw some of these guys. They had placards. They weren't just little pictures. These were placards. They were bigger than the chest itself, except in maybe a couple of cases. And these things were monster, and it had the name, the picture, everything about the person. But for voting, they don't want you to have voter ID. We have a woke military that can't fight or win, as proven in Afghanistan. The way they were taken out was such a disgrace. And the people in the military are so great, but the leadership at top is just a disgrace. That should have never, ever happened. And we had it way down in Afghanistan. Everyone up here knows about it, and we were doing great. They respected us. Abdul, the head of the Taliban, I called him. And I said, Abdul, you're killing a lot of our people. Don't do it, Abdul. He was killing them, shooting them in the Obama administration. People, I got criticized for that call. I said, Abdul, don't do it, Abdul. Yes, Your Excellency, I understand. I said, if you do it, we are going to hit you harder than anybody has ever been hit in the history of our country. And that's very hard because we do have a great military. A lot of people don't even realize it because of the way we run it. But we have great people. We have great generals, not the television generals. But I said, Abdul, don't do it. He said, but why do you send me a picture of my home? Why do you send me a picture of my house? Please tell me. I say, Abdul, that you're going to have to figure out for yourself. It's a lovely house. And for 18 months, we had nobody, you know that, Lindsay, we had nobody killed or shot, not one soldier. In fact, Biden even making a speech during that period, he said, well, say what you want, for 18 months, nobody was killed, no soldier, not one, not injured, not shot at in Afghanistan. And then they start screaming at him, don't say that. You're not supposed to say that because that's good for the Republicans, but that's true. We didn't lose one soldier in 18 months. We didn't have one soldier shot at in 18 months. And then they had the catastrophe of that pullout, that horrible pullout. The way they did it was so embarrassing to her. I believe it was the lowest day in the history of our country. I really believe that. And I think that's one of the things that started with Russia. Russia looked at that. They saw that incompetence, and they said, wow, this is a great time to go in. And by the way, that would have never happened. We should have a military that's conceived in fighting and winning, not conceived in woke. And that's what we want. We want a military that wants to win. We have proposed mandatory electric stoves. Think of that. And electric cars. They want mandatory stoves. They want mandatory electric cars. The cars go for like two hours. What are you going to do? Everyone's going to be sitting on the highway. We're all going to be looking for a little plug-in. Does anybody have a plug-in? My car just stopped. I've been driving for 1 hour and 51 minutes. It's ridiculous. And people that are cooks, I'm not much of a cook, but the cooks are saying gas is better. So use whatever you want, but have alternatives. If you want an electric car, if you want an electric stove or a range, it's crazy what they're doing. It's crazy. We have people in the midst of the greatest crime wave in the history that wanted to fund our police. This is, again, April Fools. This is April Fools. Who would think? We have the greatest crime wave right now in the history of our country. Crime is up 78% in cities. Nobody's ever seen it like this. And they wanted to fund the police. And that's never gone away. You know, they tried to say, well, we're just sort of kidding. We're not really. They wanted to fund our police. It's not even believable. We have men being encouraged to compete against women. And that was brought up before, but now I bring it up as April Fools. Who ever thought of a thing like this? We have men who want to compete in women's sports. We have Antifa and BLM who hate our country and burn down our cities, and they're totally protected by law enforcement, and yet they put American patriots in jail. What's going on there? That's all April 1st, April Fool's Day. We're begging foreign nations for oil when we have more oil than they have. They think we're crazy. They think we're totally stone cold crazy. I speak to these people. They say, you're begging us for oil. You got more oil than we'll ever have. I call it liquid gold. It's right under our feet. And we decide to stop drilling oil right at its all-time high. Now, you have friends of mine here, businessmen, great business people. So it hits a record price, and they say, let's stop drilling. It's supposed to be the opposite. April Fools, right? April Fools, it's the opposite. When it hits a record price, let's drill. Let's lower taxes. Let's pay off debt. We would have been not only energy, we would have had energy for ourselves, but we were going to have so much extra energy, double and triple what we would have needed. We would have paid off our debt. We would have made so much money. We would have taken care of Europe. They would have paid us a fortune, which is much less than they're paying right now. Everybody would have been happy. But it's a shame when you see it. But that's April Fool's. Think of it. We stop drilling when the oil prices hit the highest they've ever had. It's supposed to be the opposite. We sell China millions of barrels when we can't get oil for ourselves. So we can't get the oil. We don't know what to do. We're looking for it. They call up the governor. Governor, you're a smart guy. Please help us get some oil. He says, I'm sorry, I can't do that. It's under our ground, but they're restricting us from taking it out, right? Even your pipelines and things. They don't want pipelines. They don't want anything. An all-time high is supposed to be the opposite. We demand windmills be built on our oceans, our prairies, our mountains, and our plains, only to realize that they're killing all our eagles and our birds. If you kill a bald eagle, they put you in jail for 5 years. But the windmills knock out thousands of them. Nothing happens. And it's the most expensive and least reliable form of energy on the planet. And the wind turbines are all made in China. Some are made in Germany, but most of them are made in China. Think of it. But he's protecting your shores. I can tell you, these people, your shores are being protected. They're not letting that one happen. I don't think the people on those beautiful beaches are going to be too happy with that. They're not letting that happen. I'm not letting it happen either. We have a president whose son's laptop from hell gets taken over and exposes massive corruption like nobody's seen before. And then the FBI goes and convinces the media that it's all nonsense. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. All disinformation. And they say, don't worry about that. Let's go after Trump. Trump. Let's get Trump. I sold something in New Hampshire. I said, you know, the son goes to the father. He says, you know, Dad, they got the craziest guy. He's running this store to fix laptops. And I gave him my laptop. And he's really gone wild, Dad. He's saying bad things about me, really bad. He's saying bad stuff, but what's he saying, son? Tell me, what's he saying? What do they say about me? Well, it's exposed every single crime that you've ever committed, Dad. Then I say, at some point, doesn't Biden have to say this son thing is not working out well? I mean, if you think, you guys are great politicians. At some point, don't you sort of say, like, this whole deal with the son, with Hunter, it's not working out great. Not working out great. We have an FBI and a Justice Department that raids a very secure Mar-a-Lago in Florida, placed under lock and key with additional locks added at their request. But then they want nothing to do with Biden's garage, where classified documents are strewn all over a wet floor. You know, anybody know much about garages? Those floors get very damp and wet. So you can just imagine. And then it turned out today, they just announced that house was used as Hunter Biden's office to deal with foreign countries. Can you believe it? Oh, you didn't hear that? They got a bigger charge than I thought. Most people, they're so used to this corruption, there's not much of a charge. You go, yes, 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 every day in America has become April Fool's Day. This is what it feels like, because I could go over, I could do this all day long. We could say things. It's just the opposite. They do just the opposite of common sense. You know, people think of Henry as a conservative, and he's conservative, but he's basically a man of common sense. I think we all are. We're men of common sense and women of common sense, because this is really common sense. It's not about party. They're doing things that destroy our country, that are so obvious. 2 years ago, we had that great energy independence, and it was surrendered for no reason. South Carolina families are paying over 50% more for gasoline than they were when I left office, and it's actually much higher than that. We were at $1.87 a gallon, and now think of it. Now we're at $4, $5. California's still at 7, but it's going up. You know, they use the National Reserve. I filled up the National Reserves. I did that because we had so much. I made one miscalculation. I got them so incentivized. They were producing so much gasoline, they were going to all go out of business. And the prices were going down. Remember when it was, you could get a barrel of oil for nothing, and they'd give you $37, but you had to take it away. So it was no good for the Wall Street guys because they don't like carrying barrels of oil. But we had a period of time, but we were producing it like never before. And we created something that nobody's ever seen. We would have been at a level that nobody's ever seen before. But just as I did before, I will unleash America's vast energy resources. Those guys can start up quickly. It will also, by the way, knock the hell out of inflation. You know, inflation was caused by energy. Energy is very, very big, very powerful, very all-invasive. This is a big thing, energy. And when you're a chef and you're cooking, or when you have a store and you're doing something, or when you're sending trucks around to deliver things, or whatever you're doing, it's so much energy, the cost of the energy. And that cost was up 50, 60, 70%, 80%. It was going up like crazy. And don't forget, it's artificially known. Now it's starting to inch up again very rapidly, actually, because he took these strategic national reserves that I built up, and he took everything out. And now it's at the lowest level. I just read that it has been in 40 years, 42 years. So this is crazy. That's supposed to be used for war, for our protection. It's not supposed to be used to get gasoline prices down for an election, which is what they did. Well, thank you. I love you too. But we handed Biden a great economy, the fastest economic recovery ever recorded. It was the fastest ever recorded, but now families are being crushed with real wages down 21 months in a row. 21 months in a row. As president, it will be my personal mission to put a secure middle-class lifestyle within the reach of every single South Carolina family, and we'll do it easily. We're going to beat inflation rapidly. Rapidly. You know, the one thing is it's not as easy as it would have been because it was what caused it was energy. Now everything is causing inflation, Henry, everything. But to beat inflation, we will stop the government spending insanity. $1.7 trillion just approved, and we'll rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world. And I did it before, and I'll do it again, and it won't even be difficult. It's not even going to be difficult. And we will be respected, because we were respected as a country. You know, they did a poll that I wasn't as popular in Germany as Obama. Of course I wasn't, because, I mean, if anybody that wins those polls is not doing a good job for the United States. And we both got big crowds, but they wanted to see who's more popular. And the German people, great people, they said, this guy has really beaten us up. No, we make them pay because they took advantage of us on trade, and so does every country. There's not a country that didn't. But we renegotiated USMCA, we renegotiated all of our trade deals and making a fortune. And the greatest deal I made, I can't even talk about it. It's the deal we made with China. The farmers took in $50 billion worth of purchases where they were taking in nothing. And I got $28 billion from the Chinese to give to our farmers because they took advantage of our farmers for years. And I got them to pay $28 billion directly to our farmers. And nobody believed that was possible. And on the border, I really like the president of Mexico, happens to be a socialist, you know. We've missed socialism because our Democrat Party and others, they never stopped. You know, the train never stopped. It's supposed to stop at socialism. It just passed. So we're down to Marxism and communism, okay? It never stopped. But I said to him, President, we have to have 28,000 soldiers guarding our border. He said, we can't do that. I said, you have to do that. And I said, 28,000 soldiers. And we also have to stay in Mexico. Everybody has to stay in Mexico. I can't do that. You got to do that. Then he sent a representative. He laughed at me when I said it. He said, no, we can't do that. We won't do that. I said, you have to do it. And if you don't do it, we're going to charge you a 25% tax on every single product you sell to the United States. And he said, could I get back to you in 5 minutes. I'd like to make one call. I think that might have been to the president. And he made the call, and he said, it would be our honor to give you 28,000 free soldiers. It would be our great, great honor to allow you to have stay in Mexico for millions of people. Millions and millions of people. You remember that one. Unlike Biden, who's wasting hundreds of billions of dollars on the Green New Deal, I will send South Carolina the world-class infrastructure that you truly need. Just as I ensured that Charleston was the deepest water port on the East Coast. We took care of it. That was us, right? We took care of it. You got the best, the deepest. You know, we had a sign up there that said, dig we must. Forget about everything, dig we must. They're saying, oh no, there was a snail there. I said, that's all right, we'll work that out. But you have the deepest port by far on the East Coast, and that was a big thing. I assume that had a big, that's great, right? Good job, you did too. By phasing in tariffs and restrictions, we will phase out imports of all essential goods from China, and we will bring those jobs and factories back to South Carolina and our other great states. And I will force the Chinese to sell any holdings in the United States that put our national security at risk. We have to do that. I took in hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars in taxes and tariffs from China, brought in businesses and brought them back from China like nobody's ever seen before. It's never been done. No other president has ever done anything like it. No other president has ever taken in 10 cents from China. It was always, oh, they're a developing nation. They say they're a developing nation, so on trade deals and all of this, they just rip us off. Nobody's ever ripped us off. But other countries rip us off also, but nobody's ever ripped us off like China. When I got in 507 billion, with a B, billion, in deficits with China. Think of it. Not even sustainable. But this is why we have $32 trillion in debt. When you think about it, much of it's owed to China, which is interesting. We'll have to work that out. I can see a nice swap there. You know, you've screwed us for about 30 years. Let's negotiate that debt. Let's renegotiate the debt. No, it's ridiculous. We owe them trillions of dollars, and they've taken advantage of us. I don't think that's good. Under Biden, fentanyl, heroin, meth, and other lethal drugs are pouring across our wide-open border, tearing families and communities apart. Drug overdose deaths are up 13% in South Carolina last year, and the reason is the drugs are just pouring in at levels 10 times what they were 2.5 years ago. Who can believe that? 10. This isn't 100%. This is 10 times. The drug cartels are waging war in America, and it's time for America to wage war right now on the drug cartel. So we're going to smash their trafficking networks, and just as we destroyed the ISIS caliphate, we achieved the most secure border in U.S. history, and despite 2.5 years of litigation from the Democrats and even some Republicans, I built hundreds of miles of wall. We got it built. We were building additional wall, even more than we promised. And then we had that ridiculous result in the election, and they immediately stopped. And that's when I said, Henry, they really want people to come into the country, because we had the wall sitting there. All it had to be is erected. 3 weeks. And all of those additional areas that I didn't even think we would be able to do, they would have been done. And they not only didn't do them, they took all of that expensive material into areas where Texas and Arizona can't use them. It's unbelievable. They wouldn't even let them use them. So as we restore every border security policy of the Trump presidency, I will also demand that Congress impose criminal penalties on any future administration that erases America's borders, as Joe Biden has done. They've erased our borders. Through weakness and incompetence, Joe Biden has brought us to the brink of World War III. We're at the brink of World War III, just in case anybody doesn't know it. As president, I will bring back peace through strength. Peace through strength would have never happened. If I was president, there would not have been a war with Russia in Ukraine. Zero chance, and Lindsey would be happy with that. That's better than any alternative. Wouldn't have happened. And I will say this, even now, despite tremendous loss of lives and destruction of much of that country, I would have a peace deal negotiated within 24 hours. You could make a peace deal, you could make a deal for both right now, 24 hours. That deal could be done. That deal is waiting to be done, but there's nobody to do it. To protect Americans from the threat of hypersonic missiles and nuclear weapons, I will build state-of-the-art, next-generation missile defense shields. And just as I rebuilt our military, we totally rebuilt our military. Unfortunately, we gave $85 billion of it to the Taliban. How was that? Was that a good deal? We took the military out first, and we left Bagram. How about leaving Bagram? One of, I think, the biggest Air Force base in the world. We left Bagram. And you know who's occupying Bagram right now? China. And I didn't care about Bagram from Afghanistan. It's 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. And we left. We gave it to them. We should have never left that. You agree with that? You agree with that? Everybody who's intelligent agrees. We should have kept it. We left. By the dark of night, we left the lights on, and we left the dogs behind, you know? The dog lovers are saying, what happened to the dogs? We had a lot of dogs. We left the dogs behind. They don't like to say that, but that's what happened. But we left, and I don't think the Taliban's too good with dogs, right? I don't think they have that loving feeling for dogs. But I'll build the shield, and the workers and the service members of your state will be at the heart of that action. You'll be building it, and you'll be manufacturing it, and you'll be doing a lot, because a lot gets done in your state, and a lot gets done in your state because of me and because of these gentlemen coming to me and say, can we do it in South Carolina? And I'd say yes every time, right, Henry? I'd say yes every time. We will get critical race theory and other left-wing lunacy out of our military, and we will get it out of our classrooms, and we'll get it out fast. And you know, we had it out. But one of the first things when he signed all of those documents, those wonderful documents, I wonder if any of those documents are on the garage floor in his house. It's a document. But when he signed all of that stuff, we will get it out. And we had it out, and our military was clean. We fired a lot of people that taught it. They were highly paid people, too. These were people making $300,000 and $400,000 a year. They were teaching this nonsense. So we want to teach people how to win wars. That's what we want. As I announced this week, I will cut federal funding for any school pushing far-left sexual or political content on our children. And I'll create massive incentives for states and school districts to adopt crucial reforms to protect parents' rights. Can you believe we're even talking about this? Henry, we're talking about parents' rights. We're saying we're going to protect parents' rights. 10 years ago, who would even say that? Parents' rights, yeah, we're going to protect parents' rights. Who would think that would even have to say it? Today, it's like a big political statement. We will protect parents' rights. We'll bring them back. That includes a direct election of public school principals by the parents. If any principal is not getting the job done, the parent should have the right and be able to vote or to fire them and to select someone else that will do the job properly. So these are just a few of the big ideas to restore a great America that I will be talking about, and the big thing is the polls. We're leading everybody by so much. Remember in 2016, I used to go around bragging about the polls? Only if they were good. If they were bad, I wouldn't actually talk about it, but they were mostly good. But I'd go around and I'd say, you know, this poll just came out, McLaughlin just came out, and I'm leading by 20, and I'm leading by 10, and I'd go, and people drove the fake news media crazy. You got a lot of fake news out there, by the way. That's a lot of fakers. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people, but they must be here for you. I think they're here for you because you're doing such a good job. But we do have a lot. But, you know, what we're doing is so important because we're going to save our country. If we don't save our country is very fragile, very fragile. It's all very fragile. Everything is. We've got to save our country. And I want to introduce the amazing South Carolina leadership team that will help us win the chance to put this vision in action. There could be no better team, and these are friends of mine, and they're great politicians. And by the way, we have some others that called me today who couldn't be here. They're away. They're all over the place, but they also want to endorse, and they'll be announcing it very shortly. But we have some great people, very important South Carolina politicians that are going to be additionally endorsing us very quickly. And you know about that. We got about 4 of those calls today. They were like emergency calls. It's an emergency that I speak to the president. But It's first in the South. It's primary. We're going to keep it that way. First in the South. It's a very important state. First in the South. And there were people wanting to move it. I said, we're not moving South Carolina. No, we're not moving it. First in the South, and you'll always be. I'm proud to announce that we have your amazing governor, Henry McMaster, your senior U.S. Senator, Lindsey Graham, great friends of mine, your lieutenant governor, Pamela Yvette. Pamela, where's Pamela? Pamela? Oh, okay. Hi, Pamela. Thanks. Your state treasurer, Curtis Loftus, and a friend of mine. Oh, that voice was so beautiful as he called it out in Congress. Congressman Joe Wilson. I thought it was brilliant. See, that was done from the heart. That was done from the heart. That was, I don't know if you know it or not, you took a little heat at the time. People love you for that because it showed honesty, dedication, and love of your country, right? And say hello to your son, too. He's doing a great job. And a young, wonderful congressman who came into it early and somewhat unexpectedly, right? And boy, did you turn out to be a professional. You won by the largest margin in history until Cheney, I have to be honest. She lost by a number that was even bigger than your opponent lost by. Your opponent lost by 26 points. She lost by 40. So you're going to have to go back to work on your next opponent. But your second biggest all time, Russell Fry. Thank you, Russell. And another one who's been so fantastic, Congressman William Timmons. He has been so great. Thank you, William. Thank you very much. And a friend of mine, somebody that could, I think, run for almost any office and win lieutenant governor, former Andre Bauer. I think he could win for pretty much anyone. A man who did a fantastic job, who was a real U.S. attorney, Peter McCoy. Peter, great job. And another friend of mine, you know, I sent him to a country that makes the finest desserts in the world. I shouldn't have done that. But he did okay. He did okay. You're looking very thin, actually. Ed McMullen, he's a great guy. Ambassador. And there's also an incredible group of state legislative leaders here who will be supporting us in a very big way, and we're going to be announcing it over the next couple of weeks. We have tremendous support. I think we have really tremendous support all over the country. This is the first time I've done this. We're early. You know, when I announced a couple of months ago, the fake news said, "Why isn't he campaigning? There must be something wrong." I said, it's 2 years before the election. Give me a break. But we have huge rallies planned, bigger than ever before. The rallies are actually bigger than they've ever been because there's a spirit like we've never seen before. And it's been, I think, unequaled ever in the history of our country. And it's more spirit now than we had at any time. And that includes 2020 and even 2016. So I'd like to invite Governor McMaster, who's so incredible, to say a few words, followed by Senator Graham, Lieutenant Governor Evett, Representatives Wilson, Fry, Timmons, Ambassador McMullen, and based on that list, please go quickly. Other than Henry, I don't know. Henry and Lindsey. But why don't you start it off? Thank you, Henry, very much, please.
Thank you. Thank you, President Trump.
Thank you.
As you have noticed, this crowd loves you. People all over the state. And that's because we believe in common sense. We believe in the Declaration of Independence. We believe in the Constitution. We believe in the Bible. And we believe in you. Real quick, y'all. Want to welcome everybody here. And it occurred to me as the president was talking and I was thinking about what was happening, is we know that sometimes the Lord moves in mysterious ways, might go one way to come back another later. Well, here we are. When Donald Trump was president, America was soaring, records everywhere, more strength, more respect. Our enemies were petrified, our friends were comforted. And then we had an election and everything changed. But since then, the people have clearly seen the damage that can be done by an administration and leaders who do not believe in the goodness and greatness of America. They have shown their true colors, and now we have their playbook. We know who they are. I have never heard so many people out there quoting Pete Townsend of The who said, "We won't get fooled again." And we're coming. We're coming back stronger than before, and in November 2024, we will re-elect Donald Trump, and we will see a burst of freedom and prosperity unlike any we have ever seen before. We're for you all the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, he did it once, he can do it again. Isn't that why we're here? So, Mr. President, I started my political career right there, and I got my first paycheck, and I said, I got to get out of here. To the State House people, you're not doing it for the money. There's one thing I want to talk to you about. How many times have you heard, we like Trump policies, but we want somebody new? There are no Trump policies without Donald Trump. I was there. You know why $400 billion was given by NATO nations? Because he asked and they were afraid to say no. Every president since I've been up there has asked NATO to give more money, but they gave more money when he asked. People talk about China. You did something about China. They finally paid. Everybody's been talking about China. You made them pay. You know why Mexico said yes to you? Because she scared the hell out of them by taking on China. You know why the Abraham Accords came about? It's because you convinced the Arabs and the Israelis you were strong and you're reliable. You killed the terrorists that needed to be killed. You convinced the Arabs to work with the Israelis, and the world is a better place. We live in a dangerous world right now. The good news for the Republican Party, there are many talented people for years to come, but there is only one Donald Trump. And I say this sincerely. You can talk about his policies, but you could not do what he did. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for coming to South Carolina. Thank you. You know, there are so many things we're grateful for. We're grateful for your stand on life, especially here in South Carolina. And thank you so much for moving our embassy to Jerusalem. My husband David and I had the chance to visit earlier this year on an international trade mission. It's a beautiful embassy, and the people of Israel are so proud to have it there. Thank you for coming to South Carolina.
Thank you. Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President, Governor, First Lady, fellow South Carolinians, my campaign commitment, my campaign slogan when I run for public office is Joe means jobs. And so I especially appreciate Governor Henry McMaster. With the General Assembly here, in the last year, he has achieved, even by Trump standards, a lot of money, $10.3 billion of investment in South Carolina. South Carolina is the leading manufacturer and exporter of tires. South Carolina is the leading exporter of cars of any state in the Union. But also, I appreciate President Donald Trump. He set records, and that is that he achieved, while he was president, reducing taxes. People got to keep their own money. How incredible. And then to have the reduction in regulations, he reduced unemployment to the lowest level ever for African Americans, for Hispanics, for Asian Americans, for women and young people. And so there's no question that I believe Donald means jobs. God bless you.
I have watched Nancy Pelosi and Democrats in Congress spend $5 trillion that has caused inflation to be the highest in my lifetime. Gas prices the highest in my lifetime. And we just fired Nancy Pelosi, and we're going to stop the spending. That's step one. But step two is to fire Joe Biden and get our president back.
Hey. Thank you all for being here. This building was started over 150 years ago, and there's a ton of history that's been through this building. but this is as big a history today as there's probably ever been in this building. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2016, I believe there were 16 people running. I can't remember all of them, but there were 16 people running, and early on, I picked this gentleman because I wanted a change agent. I had seen enough of the same old folks that learn talking points. I got all the talking points I need. I want results. I don't even know if you know this, but I was in Iowa when you spoke at the college when it was snowing out there early on in the primaries when you chose not to do the debate and go meet real people at the college. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to make history right here in South Carolina. When I was a little boy, Ronald Reagan ran for president. That's the first time we picked a primary, that real people got to pick the primary, not just the activists. Only one time, Newt Gingrich is the only time we didn't pick the next president nominee for the Republican Party. We did it 2.5 years ago. We did it before that. We picked the right man at the right time for the right job, and we made history picking the 45th president of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to pick the 47th president of the United States. Mr. President, as a 53-year-old with a 3-year-old young boy, I worry about where this country's going. And I feel blessed. I talk to the Lord almost every day, and I feel blessed that we have someone like you willing to go back and fight that swamp in Washington. We're praying for you. We're thankful you kicked it off in South Carolina. God bless.
Thank you.
Folks, let me tell you, the greatest honor of my life was to serve as ambassador to Switzerland and Liechtenstein for President Trump. And rest assured that every ambassador throughout the world under this president woke up with one mission: peace, security, and prosperity. He drove it in our heads from day one to the day he left that White House, and the best is yet to come.
So, thank you very much. Thanks, sir. So we'll just conclude by saying I very much appreciate it. I respect these people so much, and the state so much, and God bless you. We need the blessings from God. Our country's in big, big trouble. God bless you all, and we'll turn it around, and we'll turn it around fast. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you.